starting the tour. In this area where we used to have the wheelbarrow, it has since moved over there, but you know that if you've seen some of the past tours. So I'm just going to catch you up on what we have growing this spring. So in our area that we live in, we are currently facing some water restrictions, and we are only allowed to water between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And unfortunately, in the heat of the day, in this particular position with the white wall and the reflection, these poor lettuces are a little bit crispy and a little bit worse for wear. So I'm just going to quickly go through here and pull off their dead leaves. Here's our favorite little wheelbarrow. We do have some strawberries coming up, but unfortunately the chickens have done their best on the garlic chives. And honestly, I'm just too tired to fight them on this. If that's what they really want and it's the only thing they're after, I may just give it to them. However, the plan is to take a few of these garlic chives and replant them out into a container in the hope that we can have some garlic chives and not only the chickens. Over here in this section, I've got 3 gem squash plants, and they're all doing really well, and they've got their second set of true leaves. Over here we have our tomatoes. We've got money makers, rodades, and beefsteak tomatoes. They're all doing really well. Right guys, so in front of me we've got our beans. We have a Jack's giant bean, we have a Witzer bean, and then we have an orca bean. Now, I was gifted the orca bean seeds by a friend, which I'm very grateful for. But look how it's developed. For some unknown reason, it's growing sideways. So now I'm not really sure when I go to plant this, do I plant it so that it is directionally standing up, or do I just plant it like this and let it self-correct? If you know, please let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate your help and assistance on this one. Apart from those beans, we also have a loofah and 2 spun specks. And over here, hiding out beneath this little leaf, we have a market mall cucumber from Sought After Seedlings, specifically Linda's seeds. So it'll be interesting to see how those grow for us. Apparently they are a very good container cucumber, so we'll put that to the test. Here in the rose bed we have a lot going on. These roses have hit their full bloom. There are loads of buds on them, so in no time this will be a wash of color, and it really is a nice thing to see at the moment because it's bringing me so much joy watching the buds turn from red to orange to pink and eventually fading out. Now I know it looks a little bit messy with some of these older roses hanging here, but I do have intentions of removing the roses and saving the petals for something special later. Yeah, we've got our blueberry. We really did suffer a little bit this year with our blueberry. It's not necessarily doing the greatest or the worst. It does seem a little bit yellow and we're not 100% sure what it's deficient in, but we have fed it to ensure the acidity of the soil is better, and there has been some improvement. And whilst it looks a little bit wishy-washy, it does have a fair amount of fruit on it, so we're happy about that. Since the chickens have decimated our grass, we still need to supplement them with fresh greens. So this is our solution to the problem, and we built a grazing box. I will put a link for that video up here for you so you can check that out if you're interested. But essentially what it is it's a raised bed with some wire mesh over the top, and the chickens walk across this, and as they do, their weight drops this slightly and they are able to pick through the grates and have their choice of the seeds that we've planted in here. And for the most part it actually works really well. This area here where we planted garlic is essentially where I am planning on planting some of my tomatoes. So I've left the soil as is, and I will be removing some of these wood chips just out onto the walkway, putting in a layer of compost just to ensure the soil health, and then putting our wood chips back. And we're going to see how keeping your tomatoes mulched does in our summers. We're already in spring and we're already under the water restrictions, so I'm expecting this year to be an interesting one for our garden if the rains don't come soon. So hold thumbs for that. Okay, so in this little section of the line garden, we do have a few things growing here. We've got a lemon and ice bush. It stays here, it's perennial, it's settled, and it is doing well. It even has some lush new growth on it. Then over here we have our black bean bush. That was a volunteer, so I just left it, and it is thriving where it is. So I'm quite content with that. I may need to stake it just to ensure that it stays upright. Some marigolds. And then over here I have a kale and our peas that are doing really well as they are growing up the chicken run fence and hopefully over. So here are our telephone peas. They are growing beautifully, and as you can see, they're just taller than me, so it won't be long now, and Duncan will have to do the harvesting. Planted 2 kales here, one on this side and one on this side, but unfortunately they have been hit with the devil's glitter, and there are aphids everywhere. So you can see it better on this particular plant. I'm just going to show you the leaf. I'm actually going to zoom in for you. As you can see here, the aphids are having a feast on these kale plants, and I will not tolerate it. So unfortunately, these 2 kale plants are going to say goodbye today, and they are going to be fed to the chooks, and they will enjoy the extra protein. Luckily, it's not all bad in this garden. So as you can see here, this little area is full and lush, and I'm living for it. So over here we have some chicory, we have a cabbage, a little broccoli, which I'm still very proud of, and I mean a little broccoli. It's not much to write home about, but it's mine, and I think it'll be tasty. We also have a very full cauliflower plant over here. Then as far as our Swiss chard goes, it is filling out something beautiful, and they haven't been hit with the same diseases as the Swiss chard on that side. So I think it was a smart move just shifting them to this part of the garden. So we've just spoken about these. Here's our beautiful lavender bush. We have some yellow and some orange marigolds. And over here we have our jalapenos. The jalapenos have settled nicely, and I'm expecting big things from them. Then over here I have my 2 snow peas. But sadly, it's nearly time for the peas to be done. So the plan is to plant that Jack's giant bean here, because it does like to climb, and the archway will provide it with enough of a support system to hold on to. And we're hoping we can convince it to grow up and over on the other side. Right here in the garden behind me, I have this kale tree, and it's time for it to go. I did leave it because I thought it was going to flower and the bees may enjoy it, but we hit a cold snap and the flowers didn't really amount to anything, so I think it's just time for me to let go of my kale. And here I have my carrots, and we have been harvesting these as we need them, and they're not necessarily the largest carrots. We could probably let them go a little bit longer, but it is fun just to come out here and pop a carrot out as you need it. And they're colored, so you never know what you're gonna get. You could get a nice yellow, a white, or a purple. We did get 1 purple carrot so far, but it was very small. But for the most part, we've been pulling out decent sized carrots, and it's been a real treat. Right, so there's a lot going on in this garden. We have some tomatoes, we have some cauliflower, we have a cauliflower over here, we have another cabbage, an abundance of parsley this year, no complaints there. Some more kale, fortunately, that hopefully will replace the ones that we're going to pull out today. We even have some celery growing here, some beetroot, and behind me some peas. Now unfortunately for them, the pea season is over, so I will be harvesting them up, and we'll be planting tomatoes along here, and we'll be using the metal poles above me to string them so that we have something to anchor our tomatoes to, and to encourage them to grow upward. So behind me over here is our little field of Swiss chard. And while it's really nice to have, and I'm not planning on moving them just yet, I know for a fact I will not be planting my Swiss chard here next season. They may actually make it to a different area of the garden in the attempt to reduce the powdery mildew that we have here. Over here in the area where my table is, it's a concrete area, and we have loads of containers planted out throughout this area just to see if we can maximize the space we've got. So I'm just going to quickly show you what we have growing. The plan is just to take you on the journey from here all the way around, show you what we have growing in these containers. In this container over here, this is a Tabasco chili pepper that I've tried to overwinter. It was a fairly mild winter for us, so we're going to see if it bounces back. Then we have this container over here, which used to have catnip in it, but the cats discovered that. Some calendulas, feverfew, beautiful pansies, a lovely lettuce. The remainder of the container is empty. Some oregano and thyme. And the containers we planted out not too long ago. So over here we have a scarlet kale, some Swiss chard, a jalapeno pepper, an eggplant, and a tomato. Now, for those of you who had watched the video previously, we hadn't put in any mulch. So it was made up predominantly of compost like this, and as you can see, it has dried out so quickly, even if it is in the shade. And I didn't want that for my plants. So what I did was I removed a layer of compost out of each of these containers, and then I came through and I backfilled it with these wooden chips, and that has allowed my soil to stay fairly moist for much longer, which is ideal for my containers, especially in this heat. This is just a little tip from me to you on how to check your soil. So in this case, if you moved your wood chips back, just take your finger and you poke it into the ground, and you can feel how moist the soil is. So I know that the soil is damp up until this knuckle on my finger, but it does need a little bit of watering. So when our 6 o'clock allowance comes along, we'll give this a good watering. Over here in the tomato container, I have actually planted a basil. This is an opal basil that I grew from seed, and it really wasn't doing well. It hated where it was. So I repotted it and moved it from the garden, and I planted it here. I'm just removing some of these dead leaves, and since it's been here, it's actually doing a lot better. So we're going to leave it and see if it thrives here alongside its tomato friend. And they are good companion plants. They go together well in meals, and they grow together well. So we'll see how that goes. Down here in front of me, I've got some sage, some thyme, some parsley, a calendula, and the last of the freesias. I'm actually leaving them in case they go to seed, but I'm drying them out in the pot. I don't know if that's a smart idea, but it's what I'm doing. And over here we've got spring onions and some purple alyssum, as well as an echinacea. In this container over here, next to our calendulas, we've actually got some pansies and some marjoram, as well as a few spring onions that are coming up, which is nice to see. But tucked away over here is our cucumber, and this is an Ashley cucumber. We have grown this variety before, and it was abundant for us, so we're going to give it another shot. However, this time I planted the seed directly myself, and I've never even really had much success germinating cucumbers, but this one came up. So I've got some bamboo stakes here ready for when I need to start training it. Right, so like I was saying, this is my favorite container at the moment, and I'm going to explain to you why. I have been struggling for years to figure out what I wanted to grow in this container, and I got a little bit fed up. So I just started randomly sticking things in here, and it is an absolute mismatch of chaos, but it's absolutely beautiful. So I have some calendulas growing here. I did plant a seedling or a start of these, and it's filled out quite nicely. I then came along and planted in some parsley that the chickens had destroyed, and it's bounced back. I have a volunteer lettuce and a volunteer ranunculus, which is pretty cool. It's small, but it's a purple one, and I know that it's here now. And there is another little bud coming up, so I think if I cut it, or at least cut some of this foliage back, it may have a better chance at survival. So we'll see how that goes. Then I have a mystery squash. I believe this to be a butternut, but it could also be a spunspeck. But we're just going to have to wait and see. And I've put in a bamboo stake just to help it stay stronger in the wind. And I'm encouraging its tendrils to latch onto the twine that we have wrapped around this pole. And maybe we can grow some squash vertically this year. And then just behind that, we actually have some beautiful pansies. Hey guys, and that brings us to the end of the tour. So I just want to say thanks for hanging out with me today. I do appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us on our journey into homesteading.